I have friends who seem to know every piece of breaking news happening in the world. But when I ask them, "How's life lately? Are you at peace? Are you happy?" they fall silent. Hi, my friend. I'm Wendy, and welcome back to the Heal and Grow podcast. Before we begin, I just want to ask you one question. Lately, has your mind been at peace? If your answer is no, then there's a good chance it's because your mind has been too full lately, full of breaking news, endless conversations, countless harmless updates you scroll through every day, and even worries that don't really belong to you. We think we're just catching up, but each time we do, a little bit of our focus, a little bit of our energy, drifts away from ourselves and dissolves into the noise of the world. Gradually, our minds run out of space for what truly matters, for joy, for peace, or simply for that quiet sense of gratitude for being alive. The mind is like a room. If you keep letting everything from the outside pour in, one day you'll find there's no space left and no clear way back to yourself. There was a time when I almost lost myself. Every morning, the first thing I did was grab my phone, scrolling through one piece of news after another, listening to stories about one person after another. Back then, I thought I was keeping up with the world, but in reality, the world was quietly sweeping me away. I told myself, I'm just checking for updates, but eventually, I realized that every small piece of news was taking up space in my mind. Every drama made me irritated, even when it had nothing to do with me. Every time I saw someone's perfect life online, a subtle feeling of comparison and inadequacy would rise within me. Every post, every clip, every scandal, they were all designed to make you stop, to make you curious, angry, or eager to react. But each time you give them a few minutes of your attention, you trade away a few minutes of your peace. We're living in an era where attention is currency, and sadly, many people are getting rich from the very moments of peace we lose. I started asking myself, if I keep letting my mind be hijacked every single day, when will I ever have the chance to truly live my own life? So I began to turn down the noise. Less drama, less comparison, less need to keep up, and in return, I found more time to listen to what I truly feel, to what genuinely makes me happy. And I realized peace was never gone. It just couldn't fit into a mind that was already too full. Perhaps we're not tired because we do too much, but because we think too much, absorb too much, and don't know when to stop. Our brains, as psychologists have pointed out, can only process a limited amount of information at any given moment. Yet in this modern age, we keep feeding them dozens of times more than that limit. It's like a computer with too many tabs open. Eventually, it slows down, freezes, and crashes. Our minds are the same. When they're overloaded, we lose focus. Our creativity dries up, and we're left feeling empty, even when our days are full. Science calls this information overload. I've been there myself, sitting in front of a screen with 1,000 things to watch, and yet, not knowing what I truly wanted anymore. Then one morning, in the middle of my usual scrolling, I suddenly stopped. There wasn't a single piece of news that made me happier, nor anything that made me feel lighter. And that realization hit hard, because if I kept living like that, I was on the verge of losing control over my own life. I realized I had become addicted to mental busyness, addicted to the feeling of always needing to know more, to stay updated, to make sure I wasn't falling behind everyone else. But the price for that constant chase was my peace. Slowly, quietly eroding away. And in that very moment, I realized I didn't need more information. What I truly longed for was peace. I didn't need to keep adding more unimportant things into my life. I needed to learn how to let go. I began to disconnect, not to escape the world, but to return to myself. I started turning off my phone earlier each night, taking walks without my earphones, and writing a few simple lines in my journal. What made me smile today? Those small things might seem insignificant, but they made my mind feel like it could finally breathe again. I began to notice every little moment, the smell of morning coffee, the sunlight resting on my hand, and the quiet gratitude of simply being alive. I realized I had missed so many beautiful things, just because I was too busy chasing the artificial dopamine coming from my phone. These days, I choose to live a little slower. I no longer want to know everything happening out there, because I've learned that not everything deserves a place in my mind. What I'm saying might sound big or difficult, but in reality, you can start with the smallest steps. You can begin by turning off notifications for just 1 hour a day, to let your mind rest from those endless pings, or take a walk without your earphones, simply listening to your footsteps and your breath. You can also write a few short lines in your journal, asking yourself, what made me feel grateful today? Or simply have your morning coffee without scrolling your phone, so you can truly taste the moment you're in. You can even tidy up your desk or a small corner of your room, because when your space feels clear, your mind does too. Instead of filling your head with noise, arguments, or fear, nourish your mind with positive energy. Listen to an uplifting podcast. Spend a few quiet minutes meditating. Read a good book, or just let yourself relax to gentle music. Because everything you choose to consume each day is like a seed you plant in your mind. If you keep planting noise, your mind will stay restless. But if you start planting silence, gratitude, and love, peace will naturally bloom, like a small garden inside you. Make room for peace in the simplest way possible, by choosing what you allow to enter your mind, a little less every day. And what about you? Do you want to find peace again for yourself? Start today. Slow down. Take a deep breath, and give your mind some space to breathe. And if you already have a small ritual that helps you feel calm, share it. Let it inspire someone else too. I've noticed something. Many of us, including myself in the past, are living in a familiar emotional loop. We wake up full of plans, ready to do so many things. But then, just because today I feel low, everything suddenly feels heavy, and we end up doing nothing. Welcome to Heal and Grow Podcast, a space where you can pause for a moment, learn to understand yourself a little better, and find a gentler way to live, one day at a time. Today, I want to talk about how our emotions can steer our moods, and sometimes, even our entire lives, in ways stronger than logic itself. There are days when you don't even know why you feel off, why you've lost your motivation, why everything just feels stuck. The reason is simple. You've started your day with low emotional energy, what we often call a bad mood. What happens when we let our emotions take full control of our lives? It's like handing over the steering wheel. You no longer decide where you're going. When you're happy, you work passionately, full of life and creativity. But the moment sadness visits, it feels like falling into a deep pit. You lose your spark, your drive, and sometimes even your belief in yourself. That's when we start blaming our moods. I'm just stressed. I don't have the energy. It sounds reasonable, but the truth is, we've surrendered to our emotions without realizing it. when emotions take the lead. We become like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. When joy pulls the string, we dance. When sadness loosens it, we collapse. Every action, every reaction, is controlled by that unseen hand called emotion. It may look like a normal life, but it's actually a dangerous one, because you're no longer the one in charge of your own state of mind. One sad day can make you miss an opportunity. One burst of anger can hurt someone you care about. And slowly, piece by piece, you lose your composure, and you lose yourself. Emotions are a powerful force. They can lift us incredibly high, but they can also pull us painfully low. When we're happy, we become kinder, more patient, more forgiving. But when we're sad or angry, even a few careless words can hurt someone deeply, even if we don't mean to. Have you noticed this? It only takes one person in a bad mood to make a whole room feel heavy. Just one person's irritation, a few short, cold replies, can lower everyone's energy. Psychologists call this emotional contagion, the way emotions spread from one person to another. Daniel Goleman once said, "Emotions are energy, and that energy is constantly exchanged between people." In other words, emotions are a form of energy that travels, and if we don't learn to manage our own, we'll unknowingly pass our negative energy on to others. But here's the beauty. It works the other way too. When even one person stays calm and centered, their peace can soften an entire space. So managing your emotions isn't just for your own sake. It's an act of kindness toward everyone around you. I used to be like that. There were days when I worked with so much passion and energy. It felt like I could do anything. But just a few days later, everything would fade. My mood dropped and I didn't want to do a single thing. That's when I realized I was living completely by my emotions, working by mood, living by mood, and even feeling disappointed by mood. When I was happy, I could handle everything. When I was sad, everything fell apart. At some point, I had to ask myself, am I going to stay a victim of my emotions forever? Do I really have to wake up every morning hoping my mood will be kind enough to let me live my day? And as I started observing others, I noticed I wasn't alone. So many people live the same way. Some say, I just don't have motivation. Others say, I'm too stressed to start right now. It sounds reasonable. But in truth, that's how we let our emotions control us without even realizing it. Psychologists call this emotional dependency. When our emotions decide our actions, instead of our values, logic, or purpose guiding the way, the problem is, emotions always change. Happy today, sad tomorrow. If we keep living that way, life becomes an emotional roller coaster. Up and down, again and again, with no real direction. But emotions themselves aren't the enemy. They only become dangerous when we hand them the power to steer our lives. It's like fire. When we know how to use it, it warms us. But if we let it burn unchecked, it can destroy everything. I've realized something. To keep your emotions steady, you don't need complicated methods or big breakthroughs, just 2 small habits. And if you practice them regularly, they can quietly transform the way you live each day. The first habit is simple. Allow yourself to rest. Truly rest. Not the kind of rest where you lie down but still scroll through your phone, but the kind where you completely let go. Your body softens, your mind slows, and you give yourself permission to stop. Because when we're exhausted and haven't rested properly, we're far more likely to be swept away by our emotions. When your body is tired or sleep deprived, your brain switches into survival mode. It prioritizes emotional reactions over logical thinking, and the result? Even small things, A text message, a tone of voice, a simple look can trigger irritation, anxiety, or sadness that feels out of proportion. When you're tired, you don't have enough mental energy to choose your response, and that's when emotions begin to drive you instead of the other way around. That's why, when we lack sleep, we get irritable. When we overwork, we become pessimistic. When our minds are overloaded, we can't see the good, even when it's right there. So when you're tired, let your mind rest too. Real rest means stopping completely. Put your phone down. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Take a deep breath. Look at the sky. Let your mind breathe. Because only when you pause long enough, your brain can reset, and your emotions finally have space to settle. Our body and mind already know how to heal themselves. We just rarely give them the time to do it. When you rest deeply, your emotions rest too. They stop running wildly between the past and the future. They return to the present, where there's not much to fear, only stillness, breath, and a calmer version of you. And the second habit, move your body and sweat whenever your mood goes down. It might sound strange, right? But the truth is, when your emotions are at their lowest, that's exactly when you need to move. If you've tried to rest and still feel heavy inside, still feel stuck and restless, then don't stay still any longer. Stand up, step outside. Take a walk, stretch a little, water your plants, clean your room. Do anything that makes you break a little sweat. Because every time you sweat, it's like your inner energy is being recharged. Think about it. Have you ever gone for a walk in the park and suddenly felt lighter, calmer, without even knowing why? That's your body healing you. We often think emotions live in the mind, but in truth, they begin in the body. When you're sad, your heartbeat slows and your shoulders drop. When you're anxious, your breath becomes short and shallow. When you're angry, your body tightens like a string pulled too hard. The body is the language of emotion, and the moment you change the state of your body, you also change the state of your mind. That's why movement can break the loop of negative thoughts. Emotions like sadness, anger, or fear aren't just ideas, they're energy stored inside you. If you don't release that energy, it stays trapped, making your body feel heavy and your spirit tired. But when you move, when you walk, run, stretch, or breathe deeply, that energy starts to flow again. It's like opening a valve to release the pressure inside your heart. That's why after moving your body, you don't just feel stronger. You feel lighter. Scientists have found that even 20 to 30 minutes of moderate exercise can trigger the release of endorphins and serotonin, the brain's happiness hormones. They help you feel calm, clear, and joyful again. You don't have to force yourself to be positive. Just move, and your body will do the healing for you. These two habits may sound simple, but they hold incredible power. Because our emotions don't change through big, dramatic moments. They change through the small rhythms we repeat every single day. Rest deeply to calm your mind. Move intentionally to awaken your positive energy. When you practice them consistently, you'll notice your emotions no longer swing wildly up and down. Instead, you'll begin to find your own rhythm inside. And one day, you'll realize, emotions are no longer in control. I am the one truly in charge of how I feel. So take these simple ideas and bring them into your everyday life. Let them become your quiet anchors in the middle of busy days. I'm Wendy, and this is Heal and Grow Podcast, your warm little corner to return to at the end of the day, to find calm, clarity, and a bit of peace for your soul after a long day. Have you ever felt like you're always the one who gives in, always the one trying so hard to be loved, and yet, in the end, you're the one who gets hurt the most? If that sounds like you, then this episode is for you. Before we begin, let me tell you a story. It's about a girl named Annie. Annie always wanted to make everyone happy. When her coworkers asked for help over the weekend, she smiled and said, "It's okay. I'll do it." When her friends showed up an hour late, she just laughed. "It's fine. I'm used to it." When her partner said something hurtful, she stayed quiet, telling herself, "He probably didn't mean it." And so, everyone truly believed Annie was okay. They kept asking for more, kept showing up late, kept saying things they shouldn't have said. Not because they were cruel, but because Annie never said she was hurting. There were nights when Annie lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why people kept hurting her, even though she had always been kind to them. And then, in one quiet moment, she finally realized maybe no one truly knew she was in pain, because she never showed them her pain. Sometimes we believe that silence is the best way to keep the peace, that if we just stay quiet, everything will pass smoothly. But no one knows that in those quiet moments, our hearts are slowly breaking. Every time we stay silent after hearing hurtful words, we're unconsciously saying, "It's okay. I can take it." Every time we hold back to avoid conflict, we're sending an unspoken message. "You can treat me this way. I won't react." And one day, we suddenly realize people don't disrespect us because they're bad, but because we never made them stop. We think silence is kindness, but sometimes silence is agreement. We think we're choosing love, but in truth, we're slowly losing ourselves, quietly, gently, without a sound. The truth is, when you keep pretending to be okay, people stop asking if you really are. They only see what you show them, and you've become too good at hiding your pain. If you keep enduring just to hold on to a relationship, one day you'll lose it anyway, and with it, a piece of your self-respect. So remember this. Silence isn't kindness if it's breaking you inside. And no one deserves to be treated so well that you have to treat yourself badly in return. Dr. Phil McGraw once said, "You teach people how to treat you." And he's right. People only treat you the way you allow them to. Once you learn to respect yourself, the people around you will learn to do the same. Let's return to the story of Annie, the girl I told you about earlier. After being hurt so many times, Annie finally realized something important. People don't just change, not if you keep staying silent and accepting everything. That's when she decided to do something brave. She began to set boundaries for herself. She started saying no when she was tired. She started stepping back when someone's words or actions hurt her. And slowly she began to learn even more. First, she stopped apologizing for things that weren't her fault. In the past, whenever someone was upset, she would immediately say, "I'm sorry," even when she had done nothing wrong. Now Annie understands. She can be kind without putting herself down. Second, she started to express how she really felt. When she was tired, she said, "I need to rest today." When she was hurt, she said, "That made me feel sad." She realized that if she didn't speak up, no one would ever know how she truly felt. Third, she stopped trying to explain herself all the time. She no longer needed to prove she was right in every conversation, because people who truly respect you don't need long explanations. They simply listen. Fourth, she chose to stay close to people who made her feel safe. Instead of trying to please everyone, she focused on those who genuinely cared, those who made her feel at peace just by being around them. And fifth, Annie started to treat herself with kindness. Every morning, she looked in the mirror and whispered, "You deserve to be loved, even when you're not trying to please anyone." Little by little, Annie began to feel lighter, more confident, more at ease in her own skin. She no longer forced herself to be loved. She no longer feared being disliked, and she no longer pretended to be okay, because now she understands. When you learn to respect yourself, others learn to respect you too. And maybe that's what real growth looks like. Not becoming tougher, but learning to protect your heart with gentleness and grace. Someone once said, "Respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you, helps you grow, or makes you happy." And it's true. Self-respect isn't about building a wall of pride, but about keeping just enough distance to protect your heart from being hurt again. At first, people might not understand. They might ask, "Why are you changing?" But the truth is, you're not changing. You're simply stopping the act of pretending you're okay when you're actually in pain. You no longer smile politely when being disrespected. You no longer stay silent just to keep the peace. And you no longer shrink yourself to be accepted. Because now you understand. No one can keep hurting you once you choose to stand on your own side. The right people will stay, and the ones who keep hurting you will quietly fade away. Maybe the greatest strength of all isn't how much you can endure, but your courage to say, "I deserve kindness." From that moment on, you no longer need anyone to save you, because you've become the safe place you were always looking for. And if today you find yourself in a relationship that makes you feel small, remember, you have the right to walk away, the right to speak up, and the right to be treated with kindness, because the world will always treat you the way you allow it to. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you're learning to respect yourself a little more, learning to say no when you're tired, or simply learning to love yourself a little better each day, please know you're already on the right path. Healing is never a race. It's a quiet journey, one where you begin to understand yourself more, be kinder to your own heart, and believe that you are worthy of the same gentleness you so freely give to others. I once realized something very strange. I could love, listen, and be gentle with the whole world, except for one person. The one in the mirror. I'm Wendy, and in today's episode, I want to talk about something a little strange. Something I believe most of us have experienced at some point in our lives. There's a paradox in the way we live. We're often kinder to others, but the harshest to ourselves. I have a friend, a very kind one. She always knows how to comfort others whenever they fall. When someone tells her they've messed up a project, she immediately says, "It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is that you tried." When her friend feels tired, she gently tells them, "Take a break. You don't have to be strong all the time." But the strange thing is, she never says those words to herself. Just one small mistake, and she sighs, whispering to herself, "Why am I so stupid?" When she's exhausted, instead of resting, she pushes harder. I'm not allowed to be weak. And every time she looks in the mirror, all she can see are flaws. Not smart enough, not pretty enough, not worthy enough. One day I asked her, "If your best friend were feeling the way you do right now, what would you say to her?" She went quiet for a moment. Then she smiled faintly, eyes glistening with tears, and said softly, "I think I'd hug her and tell her it's okay. You've tried your best." I looked at her and said, "Then why don't you say that to yourself?" She fell silent again. Maybe my question had accidentally touched something deep inside her heart. I think many of us are like that. You and me both. We try so hard every day, just so we won't let anyone down. Our boss, our coworkers, our family, our partner. We know how to listen to others, but we rarely stop to listen to ourselves. There are nights when you're completely drained, but you still force yourself to finish that one last task. And there are mornings when you look in the mirror, see a tired face staring back, and still whisper, "It's okay. I just need to keep going." We're scared to rest because we feel guilty. We're scared to slow down because we're afraid of falling behind, but we forget something so simple. The person who needs your love the most has never been anyone else. It's you. Your body, your heart, your mind. They've carried you through so many hard days. When people walked away, when things fell apart, when no one was there to hold you, the one who stayed was you. The truth is, you're the only person who will walk with you for a lifetime. If you can spend so much time and energy trying to keep a relationship with someone who could leave at any moment, then why not do the same for the one person who will never leave you? When was the last time you really checked in with yourself? When you sat down and asked, "How am I feeling today?" Or "What do I really need right now?" Because the relationship you have with yourself is the one that truly matters. No matter who comes or goes, no matter how much life changes, the one who will always be there for you is you. Honestly, I need to tell you this. If you don't learn how to love yourself, the world will keep telling you that you're not enough. Not pretty enough, not smart enough, not successful enough. And then you'll spend your whole life chasing after other people's standards, trying to become someone you think will be more loved, more accepted. Only when you learn to love yourself can you protect your heart from all that noise. They'll tell you that you have to be better, make more money, find someone to be happy with. But you'll realize happiness doesn't come from having more. It comes from knowing when you have enough and loving yourself even when you have nothing to prove. They'll tell you that you have to change to be loved, to be different, to be perfect. But you'll realize the people who truly deserve to stay in your life will never need you to pretend to be someone else. They'll say that if you rest, you'll fall behind. But you'll realize resting isn't stopping. It's how you keep going without losing yourself along the way. They'll say that self-love is selfish, but you'll realize loving yourself is the only way you can love someone else without losing who you are in the process. And in the end, you'll understand you never needed to become anyone else to be loved. You just needed to come home to yourself. Here's a beautiful truth. When you learn how to love yourself, the world begins to love you too, because you stop clinging to others. When you feel empty inside, it's easy to look for someone to fill that emptiness. You want to be loved, to be seen, to feel that you matter. But then, when that person leaves, it feels like you've lost a part of yourself, because the one you truly needed from the very beginning was never them. It was you. And when you start taking care of yourself, listening to your own needs, holding your own sadness, giving yourself rest when you're tired, your love for others begins to change too. It's no longer, "I need someone to make me happy," but I want to share my happiness with someone. One comes from emptiness. The other comes from wholeness. And when you love from a place of wholeness, love feels lighter, calmer, and free. You stop being afraid of losing people because you know, even if one day you're left alone, you'll still be okay. You'll still know how to love, and you'll still know peace. And if you're wondering right now, how can I really be kinder to myself? Then here are a few small things you can start doing today. When you're tired, don't push yourself harder. Take a break. Not because you're weak, but because you're listening to your body. When you're sad, don't force yourself to be happy right away. Let yourself be sad. Cry if you need to. Sit quietly without having to explain it to anyone. When you make a mistake, don't talk to yourself like an enemy. Say instead, "It's okay. I'm still learning." When you accomplish even one small thing, celebrate it. Say, "Good job. I didn't give up today." When you look in the mirror, don't just notice what you think is missing. Look deeper, into those eyes that have cried, have laughed, have had the courage to keep going through it all. And tell yourself, "Thank you for still being here." Start with these little things. You don't have to change the whole world. Just be a little gentler with yourself each day. A little more patient, a little more loving. Because every time you choose kindness toward yourself, you're teaching your heart how to love the world in a healthier, more beautiful way. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this episode. I know life can get busy, and the fact that you took a moment to pause, to listen, to come back to yourself, that in itself is already an act of love. Hi, my friend. It's Wendy. And today I want to share with you 5 small things that can truly change your life. We've all had those moments when we wanted to change, to live with more discipline, to be healthier, to start a new project, or simply to live more authentically. But the hardest part isn't changing itself. It's knowing where to start. When everything only exists as scattered thoughts in your mind, your brain doesn't know which step to take first. In this episode, I'll share with you the most practical steps to help you truly begin your journey of change. And it all starts with something that may seem small, but holds incredible power: writing down your goals. We think a lot, but we rarely take the time to actually begin. When your thoughts stay only in your head, they have no shape, no starting point, and no clear direction. Your brain treats them as passing ideas, and soon enough, it returns to the old habits, the familiar paths you've walked hundreds of times before. But the moment you write things down, everything starts to shift. Because now, you're not just thinking, you're giving your thoughts a shape. You're turning something vague into something visible, something abstract into a real commitment. Psychology has shown that when you write down your goals, your brain begins to work differently. In other words, once you put your goals on paper, your mind starts to believe that it's already happening. The idea that once lived only in your imagination suddenly becomes concrete. And that's when your brain begins to find ways to make it real. When you clearly define your goals in writing, you're telling your mind, "This is what I truly want." And as you read what you've written, you start to ask yourself, "Is this really important to me? If it is, what's the first small step I can take?" That's the moment when the fog begins to clear, and real change starts to take shape. That's why nearly every book about achieving success or setting goals emphasizes something that sounds so simple. Write them down. Not to make your journal look pretty, but because you can't achieve what you can't clearly see. Once you've written down what you truly want, The next step is learning to prioritize, to focus on the things that truly make a difference. Real change doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing the right things, the few that create the biggest impact. As Gary Keller wrote in The One Thing, success is not about doing everything. It's about identifying the one thing that matters most and doing it first. Your time is limited, and so is your energy. If you try to do everything at once, you'll quickly burn out and end up accomplishing very little. The more you take on, the more your energy gets scattered. So instead of asking, "What else do I need to do?" try asking, "If I could only focus on one thing today, what would make the biggest difference?" That's the mindset behind The One Thing. To start with what truly matters most and give it your full attention and presence. Just like sunlight. When it spreads out, it only warms. But when it's focused through a lens, it becomes powerful enough to create fire. Your focus works the same way. When you learn to channel your energy toward the right things, you create the power for real breakthroughs. Because what changes your life isn't doing everything, but doing the one thing that truly moves you forward. You also need to learn how to protect your energy. Don't let yourself get caught up in things that make you forget your true worth. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, every time you let someone convince you that your dreams are unrealistic, every time you stay in an environment where you have to shrink yourself just to be accepted, you're letting your energy slowly drain away. And one day, you'll find yourself exhausted without knowing why. Not because you're weak, but because you've been giving your energy to places that don't deserve it. Remember, your mind needs to be protected like a garden. If you let weeds, negativity, comparison, and doubt grow wild, there will be no space left for peace or faith to bloom. To reach your goals and live the life you truly want, you must learn to filter what you allow into your mind. Nourish only the thoughts, beliefs, and relationships that help you grow. And have the courage to release what makes you doubt yourself. Every day, ask yourself what I'm listening to, watching, or thinking about. Does it bring me closer to the life I want? If the answer is no, let it go, gently. Because only when you remove what no longer fits, the relationships that drain you, the habits that hold you back, and the thoughts that make you question your worth, do you create space for the right things to come in. And the beautiful part is this: when your mind becomes lighter, everything you truly need starts to find its way to you. The right people, the right opportunities, and the sense of peace you've been searching for all along. Once you've learned to keep your mind calm and steady, don't stop at just protecting your energy. Use that very energy to create the life you truly desire. Every morning and night, close your eyes and imagine you are already living as your best self, peaceful, confident, and full of energy. Feel it vividly, as if it's happening right now. Because your brain doesn't distinguish between a vivid imagination and reality. When you visualize clearly, when you see, hear, and feel your dream as if it's real, your brain activates the same neural pathways it would if you were actually living that experience. In other words, you're training your future in the present moment. Each time you picture yourself calm, confident, or successful, your brain begins to believe that this is who you truly are. And once that belief shifts, your actions follow. You start making different choices, taking new steps, and naturally moving closer to the version of yourself you imagined. That's why so many psychologists and success coaches often say, before you can live the life you dream of, you have to feel it first. Because when you truly feel it, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain that it's already happening. From there, you begin to act, decide, and respond like the person you want to become. And little by little, your reality begins to shift, aligning itself with that feeling inside you. And lastly, live with gratitude, every day and every moment. Remember, every big change begins with small choices, repeated over and over again. If you choose to start your day with gratitude, your brain begins to reprogram itself to focus on what's positive. Instead of feeling tense and lacking, you start to feel safe, loved, and enough. From that state of mind, you make better decisions. And that's what slowly transforms your entire life. If you truly want to change your life, don't start by trying to control everything. Start with gratitude. Because when your heart is grateful, you're no longer a victim of circumstance. You become the creator of your own life. Gratitude turns the energy of fear into trust, and from that trust, everything good begins to find its way to you. Wherever you are on your journey of change, please remember this. As long as you can still feel grateful, you've never truly lost anything at all. Thank you so much for listening until the end. I hope this episode has helped you pause, reflect, and begin to make gentle changes in your own life. I'd love to hear your story. Leave a comment or send me a message. Where are you right now on your journey of transformation? Have you ever found yourself saying, "I have no choice. I just have to accept it"? Hi, my friend. I'm Wendy, and this is the Heal and Grow podcast. This episode is part of a quiet nightly series I've created just for you. A peaceful corner where your heart can rest, your thoughts can breathe, and you can remember what it feels like to come home to yourself again. Tonight, I want to talk to you about something very small, but powerful enough to change the way you see your entire life. It's the quiet art of acceptance, and why acceptance is not the same as giving up. Many people think that acceptance means giving up, that it means you've stopped trying, that you've lost, or that you no longer care. But the truth is, acceptance is one of the bravest acts a mature and awakened soul can ever do. Surrender is when you force yourself to endure, to hold everything in, to stay silent even when it hurts, until you begin to feel like a victim of your own life. It's when you tell yourself, "I have no other choice." But acceptance is when you have the courage to look at what has happened and gently say, "Yes, this has happened, and I no longer want it to control how I feel." Acceptance doesn't make you weak. It's the exact opposite. It's a sign of awakening, of strength, of deep self-awareness. Because when you accept, you stop letting your emotions control you, and you become the one in control of your emotions. When you accept, you stop fighting reality and begin to work with it, to find new directions for your growth. Acceptance gives you the strength to step out of the endless spiral of questions. Why did this happen? What if I had done something different? Maybe I should have tried harder. Those thoughts only weigh your heart down. The weak try to run away from their pain, but the strong, they look straight at it, they understand it, and then they let it go. And in that quiet moment, when you finally release what you cannot change, you'll discover something gentle, something peaceful, something true. Peace is the real strength. When something has already happened, the only thing we can do is accept it. There are moments in life when no matter how much we wish or pray, we simply cannot change what has already happened. A word that has been spoken, a person who has left, an opportunity that has passed us by. When we fight against what's already happened, we only end up exhausting ourselves, draining our energy, and losing the peace that's still within us. Acceptance doesn't mean that you agree with what happened, or that you like it. It simply means that you choose not to let it destroy your inner peace. Because sometimes you cannot control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond to it. And that, right there, is where true freedom begins. Acceptance begins with observation. You simply notice what you feel: sadness, anger, disappointment, and gently tell yourself, yes, this is what I'm feeling right now. No need to analyze it. No need to force yourself to be positive. Just notice it. It's like sitting by a quiet river, watching the waves of emotion pass by, and remembering you are not the waves. You are the one sitting on the shore, watching them come and go. When you learn to observe from that still space, you no longer get carried away. You're no longer a victim of your emotions. You are the witness, the one who sees, who understands, and then gently lets go. Let's say someone says something hurtful to you. You have two choices. The first, you can get pulled into it, argue, defend yourself, and let that anger control your whole day. Or you can simply acknowledge that it happened. You can recognize that you can't change what they said, but you can choose not to carry it with you. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with them. It simply means you choose peace over victory. Now imagine you've just lost an important job. It's never easy. It can leave you feeling disappointed, anxious, and even lost for a while. But acceptance here doesn't mean giving up. It means looking at the truth and saying, yes, this has happened. I'm no longer in that position. That's the first step. To stop resisting what's already done, and to save your energy for what truly matters next. Acceptance helps you separate your worth from your work, because you are not your job. You are the person who has learned, who has tried, and who still has the power to create something new. So, allow yourself to feel sad. Allow yourself to rest for a while. And then, when you're ready, gently ask yourself, what have I learned from this journey? What do I truly want next? And this time, which path will lead me closer to happiness? Acceptance helps you rise again with a lighter heart, without dragging along the heavy questions of why or what if. Because sometimes when one door closes, it's just life's way of leading you toward a path that's more aligned with your soul. Usually when we hear someone say something to us, especially when they judge or criticize, our first reaction is to defend ourselves. We feel the need to explain, to prove that they're wrong, to show that we don't deserve to be treated that way. But if you pause, just for a moment, and watch your feelings like a quiet observer, you may realize something gentle but powerful. That what truly hurts is not their words, but the meaning your mind attaches to them. If you believe you're not good enough, even a small criticism can cut deep. But if you know your worth, those words become nothing more than sound. They come, they go, and you remain peaceful within yourself. We often have a habit of making things more complicated than they are. We replay moments in our heads again and again, asking, why did they say that? Was it my fault? Maybe I should have done something differently. But those endless loops don't bring clarity. They only bring exhaustion, because a restless mind can never find peace. So sometimes what you need isn't more understanding. It's simply to stop, take a deep breath, and whisper gently to yourself, enough. I don't need to understand anymore. I just need to be still. And in that quiet moment, when you no longer need to explain, no longer need to control, no longer need to react. You'll begin to feel something deeper rising inside you, a peaceful silence. That is acceptance. Not surrender, but a gentle return to your truest self, the place within you that no word, no judgment, and no noise can ever touch. It's not easy, you know. Acceptance isn't something you learn in a single night. It's a journey, a lesson life will keep bringing back to you, again and again, until your heart finally understands. When you first try to accept, it will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will want to fight, to explain, to be right, to be seen, to be understood. But with time, you'll begin to notice something softer. Each time you choose to accept, you grow a little stronger. You become steadier, lighter, and closer to yourself. If something is hurting you right now, I just want to leave you with this small reminder. What has passed? Let it pass. Not because you're weak, not because you've given up, but because you've learned that your peace is far more precious than proving what's right or wrong. When you choose acceptance, you're whispering to yourself, I am strong enough to no longer hold on. And maybe, acceptance is one of the deepest ways to love yourself, because you no longer keep hurting yourself with what's already gone. You choose instead to live fully in this moment, where you're still breathing, still healing, and still growing, one gentle day at a time. So tonight, as you close your eyes and rest your heart, remember this gentle truth. You don't have to fight every storm. You don't have to understand every story. You only need to come back to yourself. Because peace was never lost. It's always been there, waiting quietly beneath the noise, beneath the thoughts, beneath the ache. And every time you choose to pause, to breathe, to accept what is, you are coming home to that peace again. You're learning to live softly, and to love yourself not through perfection, but through presence. True freedom isn't about doing everything you want. It's about knowing what truly deserves your energy. Real change always begins within you, not with other people, not with your circumstances, but with the way you choose to see the world. Start by shifting your thoughts. Focus on the small steps you can take today, because when your present is healthy, your future has something strong to grow from. Many people wait until life feels perfect to be happy. But happiness doesn't come after you change. Happiness is the energy that helps you change. If you can, step away from negative environments, from people who tell you that you can't. Not because you're better than them, but because your energy needs protection. Our brains are easily influenced. If you keep hearing discouraging words, you'll start doubting yourself. But the opposite is also true. When you surround yourself with inspiring people, you naturally become stronger and more confident. And please, stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison is a loop that fills your body with cortisol, a stress hormone that makes you anxious, jealous, and small. The more you compare, the more you feed fear and the story of not enough. Take a deep breath and tell yourself, I'm on my own path. The moment you do that, you step out of the victim role and return to the creator, the one who is consciously writing their own story. Instead of envy, let yourself feel inspired. Look at those who are ahead of you and ask, what can I learn from them? When you shift from jealousy to learning, your energy changes. You stop being pulled down and you begin to rise slowly but surely. And that's when true manifestation begins, when you finally become the person you once admired. At the end of it all, I just want to remind you of this. Manifestation isn't about magic. It's the art of living with faith, gratitude, and consistency. Every time you picture your dreams more clearly, every time you give thanks for even the smallest things, every time you choose trust instead of fear, you are already changing your energy. The universe doesn't reward begging. It responds to those who believe they are worthy. So if today you feel like you're not enough, remember every seed begins in the dark. Your only task is to keep nurturing it with faith, gratitude, and small daily actions. One day, you'll look back and realize that everything you once wished for has quietly become your reality. Naturally, gently, beautifully. I'm Wendy, and thank you for listening to the Heal and Grow podcast. If this episode speaks to your heart, listen to it again tonight, as a soft reminder that you can create the life you dream of. Start today, and trust that you are worthy of all the good things coming your way.